I am quite excited today because I am being a tourist in London. I get to come up to London probably once a week, and I'm usually working here, and I'm running in and out of the flat, going to meetings and then getting in my car as quickly as possible and heading back to Wales. But today I've taken a bit of a break, a bit of a pause, and I'm going to the National Portrait Gallery. So I'm walking up to the Tube and I'm heading off to see the Cecil Beaton exhibition. Now, you may recall in a previous video I went to a Cecil Beaton exhibition at the Garden Museum, and that focused more on his design work in gardens and some of the work with the royal family. Now, this exhibition is going to talk about him as a fashionista. So I'm not sure I'm looking particularly fashionable today, but I'm doing my best. Bit of a countryman in London, but come along with me. Let's get on the Tube and pop up to the National Portrait Gallery in central London. I love this tube station. I think it's 1930s design, very classic. Piccadilly line, District and Circle line. Best lines in London, you get everywhere with them. Look at that. I walk up and down these steps all the time during the week to go to clients' meetings. There's a different spring in your step when you're doing it on a jolly. And, as if by magic, a train was waiting for me. So I boarded it and headed off to central London to the National Portrait Gallery. I have to say, I was rather excited and very glad, because often when I'm on this train, it is packed to the gills with people. But here, it was almost empty. So I have arrived in central London, got off at the embankment, which is, surprise, on the embankment of the Thames, and I'm heading up now to the National Portrait Gallery, and I've got some memories to share on the way. So many years ago, when I was a lot younger, I used to go out clubbing in London, my early foray into London nightlife. And there, it's not there now, it's recently closed down. There used to be a nightclub called Heaven, and that was where I used to go. I worked in a bar in central London, which meant that we got free entry into this club, and I spent much of my youth throwing shapes in Heaven. And I have to say, although I spent many years in Heaven, I never met any angels, only devils. Certainly an angel for me is Oscar Wilde, and I came across a conversation with Oscar Wilde, the outdoor sculpture by Maggie Hambling. Now, this was unveiled in 1998, and it's a bench-like green granite sarcophagus. And before 1998, there was actually no statue of Oscar Wilde in London. Considering that he lived here and worked here, that's quite shocking. So Derek Jarman was very concerned about that, and following his death, a statue for Oscar Wilde committee was formed. Had people like Jeremy Isaac, Judi Dench and Ian McKellen on it. There were 12 submissions and 6 were chosen. I love the fact there is a quote from Lady Windermere's fan: "We're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars." How true is that? And talking of stars, I'm about to see the star attraction. Here it is, Cecil Beaton at the National Portrait Gallery. I seriously was shaking with excitement at this point. I am so excited that I am coming to see this. I nearly missed it. I couldn't go last year, and they very kindly changed my ticket for me. So let's go in and have a look at Cecil Beaton. When I went in, I was immediately confronted by some of his amazing work for Vogue. He was called the King of Vogue. And then I looked at some of the beautiful portraits he'd taken of what he called the gods and goddesses of Hollywood. I love Cecil Beaton because he was a self-made man. He did start from sort of a middle-class background, but he worked incredibly hard. He pushed himself forward, always working, a real example of social mobility and a real creative. I found real inspiration in his life. This chap here on the left is Rex Whistler, who really was one of Cecil Beaton's best friend. They were both gay. Rex Whistler was a painter, a book illustrator. He was killed in the Second World War, and he was in love, unfortunately unrequited, with Noel Coward. Now, as well as being a painter, a garden designer, a costume designer, a photographer, Cecil was also a filmmaker, and here are some of the wonderful camp films that he made, set very firmly in the English countryside. This chap here is Stephen Tennant, who is another friend of Cecil's. He owned Wilsford Manor, where lots of the bright young things were photographed. It's an Arcadian landscape. Arcadia was important to Cecil. This is him at Redditch House, and again, something I identify with is his love of the countryside. This is Ashcombe, which is a house he rented for 15 years. It was absolutely where he lived his best life, and he had great parties there. His mother came to stay during the Second World War when he was doing war photography abroad, and he wrote about it in Ashcombe, a story of a 15-year lease. And I was completely overwhelmed to be able to see his visitors book and see all the fabulous people that came to stay. Now, an institution that Cecil remains synonymous with is the British royal family. He reinvented them in a romantic light after the abdication of King Edward VIII, but very cleverly also kept a relationship with the king and his wife, Wallis Simpson. To this day, I don't know how he managed to do both, because Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, absolutely loathed her. And you can't talk about Cecil Beaton without talking about My Fair Lady and Audrey Hepburn. And it was for the costume designs for My Fair Lady that he won an Oscar, and there it was in all its glory in front of me. I'm sure you can see how much I enjoyed the exhibition. It was quite busy, but I think I got to take you along with me, and now I am pretending I'm walking out of Cecil's garden. Wow, that was quite incredible. It's a much larger exhibition than the one at the Garden Museum, and I guess it focuses more on the fashionable side. Bit disappointed with the crowds. I tried my best to make sure that you got to see everything. It was quite busy, but everyone has a right to come. Someone told me it had been a sellout exhibition, which is absolutely brilliant. I did pop into the gift shop and get myself a few things hot by Luke Edward Hall. Those of you who are on here regularly know I love Luke Edward Hall designs. And I was really excited to see Rex Whistler's picture of Ashcombe. So Ashcombe House, it's got a real special place in my heart, and a lot of my work at my little castle, both in the gardens and inside, are based on Ashcombe. And interesting fact, Madonna bought it with Guy Ritchie. It was their marital home, and now Guy Ritchie lives there. So that was my day off in London. I absolutely adored it, but now I have to get back to the flat, pick up the dogs, and then head back to Wales. Hello everyone, I am on my travels again, so I'd love to take you with me. I'm leaving the little castle. I'm en route to Bodelwyddan Castle, which is in North Wales. It's owned by a client of mine. I'm going to meet with the management team there, but I'm going to show you this amazing castle as part of our journey today. So buckle up, put your seatbelt on, and let's go to Bod. So I have arrived. It's quite late, so I'm going to have dinner and get to bed, but I promise I will show you more tomorrow. But look at that. I mean, that's an invitation to enter, isn't it? So it's morning and I've already been to the gym, and now it is time for me to go in and meet my client. So why don't you come along with me and have a little tour of the castle? How exciting. I can't wait to show you where I'm working today. I'm going to tell you a little bit around my job later on in the video and why I find myself in places like this. But first, let me give you some history of Bodelwyddan Castle, which is how I learned to pronounce it. So, like my own little castle in South Wales, Bodelwyddan didn't start as a castle at all. So the earliest buildings on this site are around 1460, when it was a manor house, and it was then owned by the Humphreys family of Anglesey. And it stayed in their hands until the 1600s, when it was bought by Sir William Williams, who would later become the Speaker of the House of Commons. And it was that purchase that set the course of what this castle would become in the future. Now, what we mainly see today is the result of 19th century ambition. So in the 1830s, Sir John Hay Williams rebuilt the house in the Gothic Revival style, very similar to Strawberry Hill, the house owned by Horace Walpole. And he worked with a chap called Joseph Hansom, who you might recognise the term hansom cab. Yeah, that was him. Now today, the castle is actually closed to the general public. My client has a hotel on site, but because of health and safety concerns, members of the public really aren't able to go into the castle. So it's a real opportunity and a real rarity that we get to go in and look at this abandoned castle today. Until recently, it was owned by the local council, and they took it off their books and sold it to my clients a couple of years ago. I think they're still figuring out what to do with it, but once you get inside, look at that, it's so Harry Potter. Once you get inside, you'll see what a treasure trove there is in this castle. You can see the oldest bit there, the Dutch gabling. That's probably the oldest bit of the castle. And this is a kind of inner courtyard where, in the Victorian days, the butler might have lived. That was a brewery. And just over the other side, you would get into the stables. Now, let's go in and see the castle. This is a rarity indeed. What I find fascinating when I come to places like this, abandoned houses, is that they still have an energy. Hundreds of people, probably thousands of people have walked through these doors. And certainly there's an energy that they leave behind, and you can feel it. No one has lived here for many, many years, but you can still see the energy. That sideboard there is from the 1600s. Look at the detailing. And this is what often happened. Families like this, they collected pieces of furniture from many hundred years ago. They were effectively sort of new money, we call them today, and they went around buying bits of furniture from other houses, establishing their own sense of history through the objects in their home. Now, most of the objects have disappeared here now, but look at the grandeur of this music room. Again, absolutely full of light, Victorian Gothic. If you look at Strawberry Hill, Horace Walpole's beautiful Gothic jewel box, you'll see real similarities. I can see all the ladies sitting here for a concert, the musicians playing, and what an amazing vaulted ceiling to look up with, in case the musicians were a bit boring. This felt a little bit like going into a study, but what I understand it, this was the original entrance to the castle. The books aren't real. I had to check myself. Look at that wood panelling. And then that was the original entrance, and it's now been turned into a window in the Victorian days and looks out onto what's now the North Wales Expressway, but into the fields beyond. And here, this fireplace apparently is the Williams family watching the local church being built that they paid and commissioned, the equivalent of £9 million today. So lots of people ask me, how do I find myself at places like this? I am a management consultant. I work in organisational strategy, culture and leadership, and I'm working at the moment with a hotel chain, and they own a number of historic buildings that are beautiful 4- and 5-star hotels. So I get to advise them on service and leadership, and I get to visit these amazing places and take you along with me. Look at this glorious bedroom. And then in the distance, you can see St. Margaret's, the church that was on the fireplace earlier on. And that was commissioned by Lady Margaret in memory of her late husband, Sir John William. Like many country houses in the UK, it spent some time as a girls' school. So from 1920s to 1982, it was known as Lowther College, a girls' private school. Later, they admitted boys. They had a swimming pool, they had a golf course, and I get a chance to have a tour around some of the classrooms here. And I can just almost feel and hear the clatter of feet up and down these stairs. And of course, like lots of country houses, there are ghost stories. Some of the girls would talk about seeing people walking up and down the stairs at night, whether that was to scare the junior girls, I don't know. But people have talked about seeing a grey lady walking up and down the dormitories. And in fact, some of the people that gave me a tour here talked about the fact that they had heard and seen things in the castle they couldn't explain. Look at this amazing panelling. We're going to pop in now through the kitchens and get to go underneath the castles to all of the storage units. Again, this is a part no one ever gets to see, so we're incredibly lucky. I didn't spot any ghosts, but I certainly felt a bit spooked out. Do you remember I told you it was once a boarding school? Well, you can see here some remnants of the boarding school. Just in the corner there, you can see the writing, trunks, and that is where the children would have brought their suitcases from home and stored them during term time. So I've had a private tour of Bodelwyddan Castle, and I'm very glad that I get to work in places like this, and I'm glad I get to show them to you too.